We want to get y'all out of here. The day's towards the end. I want to thank y'all for listening on our session. We got Thaddeus, Rob, and Brad here. I'm not nearly as erudite as Charles Brooks, but I like following him because he does all this. He laid a lot of groundwork, talking about the rare earth minerals and policy and how to get into it and what the government may do. And what we're going to talk about today is the need for African Americans to engage more heavily, not only in politics, but in policy and advocacy. So what we're finding is, in all three of these gentlemen, and Charles, when he gets back, have proposals or legislation that they're trying to implement. But what we're finding is they're being hard pressed to get members of Congress and other elected officials to take us seriously, right? I've got, people in the audience, I won't call their names if they want to be called out, who worked with the black governor of Maryland to get him elected. And then when he decided to veto a reparations bill, he never called any of the black people to ask what they thought about it, right? Now, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea, but regardless, he should have reached out to people who supported him to find out. So our lack of being able to be taken seriously is causing us not to be able to implement our policy suggestions, right? So I'm going to let each guy here talk a little bit about their policies. And the policies really are relevant to the process, but they should talk about so you'll know what they're working on and how important it is and why they should be seen as experts, not kind of discounted in this process. And then there's a document they handed out that's got some letters that we've sent to the White House and others on a variety of issues. And we want to try to make sure that everyone in the audience knows how to engage and starts to engage more through SCLC or whatever your organizations are, to make sure that the members of Congress take your suggestions seriously the way they take the Heritage Foundation suggestions seriously, right? So I'll start with Brad, and he's going to talk a little bit about OSIP, and then we'll go to Rob, then we'll come to Thaddeus with his reevaluation of value. Brad.
Thank you, Kevin. So my name is Brad Anderson. I'm the President and CEO of Global Risk Managers. We've been working for the last 30 years with small and minority contractors, helping them work on large infrastructure projects in their communities. Roads, bridges, power plants, wastewater treatment facilities, anything that is being built in urban communities. We're trying to help minority contractors have a bigger participation role in those projects. The way we do that is by ensuring the whole construction project. That's the acronym owner-controlled insurance. It's the owner, for instance, Fulton County, buying the insurance for the contractors rather than making the contractors go out and buy the insurance to build projects for Fulton County. By Fulton County doing that, the county can save as much as half of the insurance cost, which equates to about 2% of the construction budget. So on every $1 billion that Fulton County built, we could save $20 million. And we advocate that $20 million going into training, education, and workforce development to put more people to work. So we're actually not only trying to help small and minority contractors, but we're trying to help disenfranchised communities have opportunities to be trained and educated to build infrastructure projects that are taking place in their communities. So they have a bigger role in the tax base, make a contribution to their families as well as their communities by having the opportunity to actually build these projects rather than watching white folks come into their communities and build these projects that are using their tax dollars. So our focus is on helping small and minority contractors build infrastructure projects, training and educating folks in disenfranchised communities to work with those contractors and to make money building infrastructure.
Right, before you move to Rob, by having that insurance over the whole project, doesn't it also make minority or smaller contractors more competitive in the bidding process?
It does. Small contractors, just like any other small business, they have challenges being involved in large projects. So if you're a small contractor and you're competing with a large contractor, that large contractor can spread their insurance costs across several different projects. But if you're a small contractor and you have an opportunity to work on one big project, you've got to load your entire insurance cost for that project in that bid. And on a low-cost basis bid process, that's going to make you uncompetitive. So we level the insurance playing field by ensuring all the contractors that be working on this Fulton County program. Fulton County was actually the first municipality that we did this for. So we did it for Fulton County, then we did it for the state of Georgia, and now our initiative is to do this for the entire federal government, starting with the Department of Transportation, building out to Homeland Security, Department of Defense. So any federal contract, any large federal contract could be able to use this program to put small and minority contractors to work, train and educate people in disenfranchised communities to work on those projects. So it could be a real game changer in our communities if we could get this legislation advanced, have the model start at the federal government and flow down to state and local governments.
If you look at, in your package, if you look at tab 4 and 5, there will be letters about FISIC that were written to the government about why this, letters written about OSIP to the government about why this is important. So take a look and give you some of the details.
So you have some more of the package?
You know what, if not, if you can, if we run out, if you hit the QR code, you'll download to your phone. He didn't put that, when I do it, it pulls up on mine. Okay, all right, sorry. So Rob's from Houston. Rob, please talk a little about who you are and your efforts, and you can talk about your congressional candidacy, but also about what you do in the community.
Absolutely, thank you. My name is Rob Slater. I am a congressional candidate for District 18, the legendary seat that sent Barbara Jordan to Congress and was represented by the late, great Miss Sheila Jackson Lee. Outside of that, I'm the founder and chairman of the Culture Commission Advocacy Organization. It is kind of where we take civic engagement to a different level. It's kind of tied to politics in an unapologetic way. I always say that if Martin was a U.S. representative or if Mr. Malcolm was a senator, it's one thing to have civic engagement that leads to policies, but I think that it's time that we need to do civic engagement within the governmental system. And so some of these policies that we believe is kind of redefining what representation truly is so that it can work for not just minorities, but really address solutions and connect the problems and what that look like. For instance, we mandate that we have a federally commissioned advisory board to each representative. That's 21 members from the community that has oversight of that seat. So if you are an elected official, before you cast that vote in Washington, D.C., you take those issues to this board of the community, you debate it, you talk about it, they go to the constituency, get feedback and consensus, educated by default, come back, and that board votes, and then you go vote and advocate. We talked about looking at creating communities as an economic system by way of the tax code, such things that the SIC and the SCLC have done, expanding the tax code, writing off some of those things. We talk about reparations. As Oklahoma legislator says, a road to recovery. African Americans or Black Americans are the only ethnic group that has not had a bill or something specifically designed or put into law by them alone. Asians, everyone so else. And so in an unapologetic way, if we can't get our 40 acres and a mule, then there's ways that we could get relief by way of the tax code, by way of investment into our communities that we need to start having, to build out. So a lot of the issues that we face by way of our organization and the candidacy and other candidates that we want to try to promote to fill these seats, those are the alignment of the missions that we try to put forth that really can have impactful change like today instead of down the line.
Thanks. So go ahead, Mr. Thaddeus.
Thaddeus Dawson. The name of our organization is 10KB Incorporated, formerly 10,000 Black Appraisers, 10,000 Appraisers Foundation, and formerly the 10,000 Minority Appraisers Foundation. So to what Rob was saying is there has been no specific legislation passed by Black folks, but there has been a whole lot of intentionality when it comes to devaluating Black communities. And so what our organization was started for was to combat appraisal disparities and appraisal valuation for Black folks specifically. But as I traveled the country, I found that it wasn't just a Black problem, it was a workforce, there's a multi-layered problem. So the wealth gap hasn't changed by 1% in over 30 years, regardless of who's in office. But the devaluation of Black properties, Black folks lose $1 trillion a year in undervaluation, $200 billion a year in real estate, Black farmers lose $100 billion a year. We lose $100 billion a year in heirs property because black folks do not have wills. Over 70% of us do not have wills or trusts. And this is National Will and Trust Month. And why that is so extremely relevant is because we're about to go through the largest transfer of wealth in history, $100 trillion. Only $3 trillion of those are attributable to black people, where that number should be closer to between 7 and 10 trillion. But based on intentional redlining and racist valuation policies, that hasn't happened. And that those policies were intentional. That was further exhibited and exacerbated by the Federal Highway and Transportation Department, which came through and split up our black communities across the country to the tune of over 1,260 communities. Yesterday, we went through an exercise when I was speaking. I had everybody stand up and introduce themselves and also identify the highway that came through and ripped up their community. And there was not one single person in this room from all over the country who couldn't identify a highway that broke up the black community. The last but not least, black churches lose over $500 billion a year in undervaluation. So my advocacy is reconsideration of value. And what that does is protect the wealth that we've already had established. And what it doesn't do is accuse the appraiser of racist policies. But however, you asking them to objectively explain why that is. And it's a consumer protection because black people are most disproportionately impacted when it comes to valuation. But recent government studies has shown over 90% of all appraisals are inaccurate, and over 35% of all appraisals are disputable. And in that inaccuracy, one of the number one things that happens is market conditions adjustments are not applied in over 90% of all appraisals that are done. Who do you all think that disproportionately impacts? Us. And over 60 to 70% of that could be mitigated. So the policy part is Reverend Warnock just introduced an appraisal modernization bill. It's in the right church but the wrong pew. So it's a good idea and it's an extension of the PAVE policy, but it needs to be more intentional. And nobody emphasizes what the reconsideration of value can do because they really don't understand it. So that's part of the policy. And then there's a bipartisan bill that just was introduced a couple of weeks ago that passed that also addresses some of it's the road to something.
Recovery?
No, it's a road to housing. Yeah, the Road to Housing Act. So that's being introduced now, and one of the things that they were trying or talked about re-implementing, which is a suggestion that we made a couple of years ago, and it's now starting to pick up some steam, is bringing the FHA fee panel back. So what that does is that was abolished 34 years ago when they went to certification, and the quality of FHA valuations went off the cliff. Who maintained their fee panel was the VA, and they had the best appraisal business because they offer tidewater. That means if the appraisal is coming in less than the purchase price, you have the opportunity to let the realtor provide you with 3 additional comparable sales, because appraisers are always working at a disadvantage with historical information.
Okay, so thank So the reason I had these guys on here, what Dice has just proven is that he's an expert, right? And Warnock, he lives in Atlanta. Warnock introduced a bill, but Warnock ever asked him what he thought about reevaluation of value or his bill, right? And he just said he did the wrong thing.
It wasn't wrong. It just could be better and more effective.
But he didn't ask you, right? He talked to somebody before he did it. He didn't talk to you.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's what this panel is about, right? Talking about making sure that people take our stuff seriously. Go ahead, Justin, you can ask a question.
Yeah, well, on that point, and I'm going to tell y'all, I am a realtor, have been for 42 years, and I'm in the Washington DC area. But also after the collapse of the market in 2005 to 2008 or 10, also the government, including Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and all of them, they now, if there's a question on that appraisal, they were on what they call a field valuation now. So have we taken that into account? Because I know that I've had a couple of field valuations done on property that I listed because it seemed a little high for the lender or for the guarantor, like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, whatever. It seemed a little high, that the appraisal came above what I had got the contract for and what I listed for. So they sent somebody in to check that because they couldn't understand how did it come back so high.
We'll come back. We're not. So this is not a real estate panel. I mean, we'll come back to housing.
Just saying that it looks like they're sending somebody behind the appraisal there to check.
Not all the time, and it needs to be more consistent, and it should be a consumer protection. And so the way it happens now is the burden of proof is on the victim or the person that's being aggrieved who doesn't have the ability to articulate that argument. So in a separate policy situation where there is some advocacy and consumer protection, I think that's the angle that it should be coming from. Because if you're asking them to police themselves, you might as well put the rat in charge of the cheese.
So I think, again, everyone here is an expert, right? I mean, that's and I'm going to go back to Brad on contracting because we know the research has shown that black contractors, government contractors, get less than 1% of government contracts, right? So we're talking about New Jersey's 0.14%. We have to get to a place where, and you talk about value and wealth. In New Jersey, the average white family has $650,000 worth of wealth. The average black family has $20,000 worth of wealth. So we've got our policymakers are worried about Medicaid, but black people only make up 20% of the Medicaid population. Right? So we are not fighting. We're not being asked what we think about things. We're not being fighting. Like when the governor of Maryland vetoed reparations, he didn't ask the black community, he didn't ask SCLC, PG County, was that a good idea? And we've got to get to the place where where people ask us our opinion. I mean, we can't keep giving away our support to people who don't respect who we are and what we think. And so, Brett, I want you to talk a little bit about your interaction with your senator and legislators as you tried to get them to take this OSIP process seriously.
So we've been working for 30 years on this legislation. We've been through 2 administrations where we actually had legislation that was going to go into an infrastructure bill. This is our second go-around with legislation that's moving forward in the House. We have a champion in the House and we're looking for a champion in the Senate. And I've been chasing Senator Warnock to be one of those champions. But I've also been chasing several other senators. The new senator from Maryland. Yep, the new senator. There's a new black senator from Delaware, African-American lady, Blunt Rochester. So there, we have Cory Booker. We have several black senators now who should be advocates for policy to help small and minority contractors build our infrastructure. Blunt Rochester and also Brooks are also on the Senate Transportation and Infrastructure Bill, the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, which oversees federal highway. So they're on the right committee to do the right thing. My challenge with Senator Warnock has not been with the senator. The senator has always welcomed me and confirmed that he supports small and minority contractors. The challenge is with the staff. Did you say always?
Always.
Yeah.
Because that's where the
That is where they get their information from. That is who they defer to. I actually told the senator that, first, 1 week I told the senator that his staff was not being helpful. The next week I told the senator that his staff was being hostile. And I say that, I don't know if you guys can see this. It's a quote from a French prime minister. It says, politics is the art of postponing decisions until they are irrelevant. They're no longer relevant. And that's what happens to us a lot of times. We're advocating for policy, and the political thing to do with us is basically just delay us. Put things off until they're no longer relevant. And that's what we're fighting. We're fighting a system that is not built to listen to us. It is not built to listen to the disenfranchised or the disadvantaged, or those that can't afford to have the right lobbyist to get in and advocate for whatever the policy that you're aggressively trying to. My experience with Senator Warnock is good. With his staff is a challenge, and the challenge is to be able to push them to hear you, as Kevin says, to recognize you as an expert, and then for them to advocate on your behalf to their member and to take whatever policy that you're trying to push and move it forward in the legislative process. So they actually have to work for you. And as Kevin likes to remind me, Senator Warnock is my senator, and he is basically my representative who should be working on my behalf and on behalf of the citizens of Georgia to move legislation that supports his constituents. So what we're doing is we're going to constituent-based organizations like the National Association of Minority Contractors and working with those organizations to leverage their constituencies to get the support of the senators that can help move this agenda forward.
So, Rob, we talked before, and you've gone through this process, and you said where several members of your organization have run for office to try to unseat incumbents who they didn't think were being responsive. What do you see going forward? I mean, again, we talked about a bunch of issues, so I know where you come down, like on the tax bills or on the ground from where you stand. What's holding the members back from being responsive to us? Because they're responsive to somebody. They're doing stuff, so why aren't they responsive to us?
Trying to get me in trouble. Respectfully, because it's disingenuous and issues are only relevant when they're convenient. That's problem A. Secondly, to the regard to the senator that you just mentioned, we as a people have to demand more and speak on truth of these issues, because that's just totally unacceptable. Mm-hmm. And we saw the administration now change the norm of the political structure in under 200 days. Yeah. That doesn't scare me. That means that we could change it back or do something different in 200. It showed that it could be done. So as a people, we have to demand more to put the community into these things. So to your point, bottom line is that a representative, regardless if they're the first black, if they're the first woman, gender, whatever the case may be, the litmus test needs to be, are they effective? And effective is not just passing in tow, because when you're in a party in the Senate or the House, you're typically going to vote with the majority of the party. You're not doing nothing special in your constituency. But outside of that, where's the ceiling of politics where leadership transcends, so you're doing in the community? So what innovative ways are you doing? What systems do you have as far as transparency? Yeah. If it's a real estate option, what system? Do we create an app so your complaint could bypass my rude staff and get directly to me? Am I holding town halls? Am I engaging into that sector? If a powerhouse like this gentleman to my left that is really, I shouldn't have to depend on staff to get educated. I mean, I call you and ask you the most craziest questions. But after that, how am I still getting involved to learn and educate? So the biggest way is to go to the people that vote for you, not just in time to vote. So if your representative is not in the field during the non-election time getting information and coming to the smallest of places to get educated on things, that should be a litmus test. So respectfully, at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to put effective leadership into office and demand more and stop settling for less. And that's just where it starts at. if I answered your question.
No, that was a good answer, actually. So, Thaddeus, what are you guys working on? Like, how do, oh, go ahead. Another question? I'm Joe.
Okay, just to push back a little bit, we do work to get people put into office, but then once that election day is over, us as regular citizens drop off. Right?
Hey, you stole my thunder. You stole my thunder. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, and expect that they're going to be able to carry the mission when 3/4 of the job is fundraising in order to get those appointments, right, on good committees. And then who are they raising the money from, right? We forget all about it, or we think that $25 is like enough for, them to pick up the phone and, give us their cell phone number type of a thing. And it is great to think that our electeds could be that responsive, but no one is an expert in everything, and that's why they do rely on the staff. And so I believe in the day of the districts and all that kind of stuff, but the reality is that you do need people who are experts in those areas. We've got people who didn't even understand how the internet worked, right? That are still seated. So they have to rely on the staff. And our turnover is not fast enough in these seats, especially at the federal level, for them to constantly be upgrading their skills when the majority of their time is actually spent doing other things.
If I may,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because her name is Slater too.
Oh.
That's my new
Yes,
friend.
I was trying not to come
I
out.
know it's okay. But as Slater, we're gonna push back a little bit, right? Because in World War I, we had certain weapons that was effective for that war that wasn't effective in World War II. Things are not the same. So the mindset that we have as politics, and not saying excuses that we give them, the community is rising because the community is suffering, but we're still playing politics as normal. No, it's not okay that, we may not be an expert on everything, but we could be an expert at listening. We could be an expert at engaging. We could be an expert at creating lines of communication and pipelines to get actually things done. So we can't settle on it. And unfortunately, when you go to a grassroots situation and get somebody elected, I don't want you to say that you could do it better and keep engaged. That's not your responsibility. We need to demand more. What is this popular named individual that we're putting in office? What do we ask of them to say, hey, when I get their health care? We've been talking about health care since Obamacare. What are we really talking about? What are we putting them through? What are we making them contractually sign to our community and building a contract with them? We like somebody because we're told to like them. They hit the top lines, housing, healthcare, and all this, and what we're going to do down the line, but you haven't done nothing right now. We're accepting the generic brand, but we should demand more. Okay, not say accepting. Okay, I'm
I'm a
sorry.
big proponent of C4s. I think every C3 organization should have a C4 to take those shackles off so that they can openly advocate and campaign and do all of that. But I also think it's one of the first things that newly electeds learn when they get in there is you've got to work for a collective benefit, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got to show your one vote. So you've got to get all these other people on board. And it doesn't play out a lot of the ways that people think.
Right.
And without the support of the continued support, it is our responsibility as constituents. The system doesn't work if we're not participating, and it's not just about election day.
Yep.
And so if we're not there to support them and back them up, then it's like, we don't need to listen to them.
Right.
Yeah, so you jumped the gun on where I was headed, but
Sorry.
no, but that's fine. We'll just go straight
And
to.
I was trying to avoid coming behind Slade.
That's family right there.
You got a question?
I have a lot of respect for the Republican agenda. Make you shrug your shoulder. And the reason I do, any great organization, they have a playbook. So they invested millions in dollars of putting together their playbook. And then they took their playbook to the politician and said, this is what's important to us. Can you support these initiatives? Politicians said yes. So when they go into office, they have a playbook that they can operate by, which holds them accountable. Your initiatives, all of our initiatives. We kind of have it backwards. We're looking to that politician to tell us what they're going to do. And in hindsight, what we should do is we should create our own playbook, identify what's important to us. And then you have the politician, this is my play, this is our playbook. Your copy, your copy, your copy, and your copy. Who can align with what our initiatives are? Now, when you do that, you give it to them. All right, it's clear written out. You can't. You win the election. We have a metric now to hold you accountable to. So let's say they don't hold up to that. Now, we can collectively say, hey, you, Mr. Johnson, we gave you our playbook, right? You didn't adhere to our playbook. So guess what? You don't get the opportunity to represent us anymore because this is what you said and this is what you did. So now you are out of the picture. Now this is what I have. Here you go. This is my playbook. Can you go by our playbook? So now we have a metric. We're not giving them a metric. Did the representative know what you wanted before he went into office?
Chance, so I would say this, and I know you had some. That was where she stole my thunder. All the civil rights, social organizations, we don't have the think tanks that the Republicans have, right? I mean, there are about 30 Republican left, right of center think tanks out there who produce, and they all have $20 million budgets, right? They all produce document after document, and they're on the Hill, they do commercials, and C4s, they run ads against people, you know. In DC, DC's a small community, so even if you're right or left, we all know each other for various reasons because we end up doing stuff with other people. And that is what we are absent from. Like I was talking to, I won't name the organization, one of the organizations, they asked if we would help them do their policy work because they didn't have a policy shop. No other, there's, you know, even, you name them, no one's putting out 2025 playbooks like the Republicans did, or Heritage. That is a problem. I mean, that is we've advocated, we worked with a member of Congress who put together a tax bill for regular people called this All-American Tax Plan. You should look it up. It was going to allow people to deduct all their mortgage, not mortgage, but their daycare expenses, let them deduct their commuting expenses. It was a really good bill for we're talking on radio stations around the country about it. People loved it, but the members of Congress won't support it. I mean, the Democrats wouldn't support it, so they abdicated the whole conversation on taxes to the Republicans. And all they could talk about was Medicaid, whereas all of us could have actually benefited from being able to deduct our rental payments from our taxes, right? So, but that's where we've abdicated our responsibility. And so your point is, everyone in here, I mean, almost every one of y'all has something to do. I mean, both Josephine and Dr. Y'all all have stuff to say and are experts. It's up to you to hold those people accountable. And you have something to ask me or something.
So I've been listening to you, and twice you've said that our government vetoed reparations without talking to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who put her whole political future behind making sure, in full disclosure, that we had the first African-American governor in the state of Maryland and rallied the teachers union to swing the pendulum so that he could get elected, I wanted to dispel some of the angst that people might be having about my governor. So I did some research because I knew that he had vetoed it, but I knew he had a good reason. And let me finish.
Okay.
He said he vetoed the bill because the veto was another study on reparations. And his opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth, but I believe him because I've seen him in action doing this, is that we have other issues that we need to focus on and actually make what reparations were supposed to do, put that in action. How much time do we have to keep studying this? He's tired of studying stuff and nothing ever happening. So when we talk about narrowing the racial wealth gap, expanding home ownership, uplifting entrepreneurs of color, and closing the foundational disparities that led to inequality from food insecurity to education, which is my field, I think we gotta be careful because it's very easy to throw out a one-liner, right? He vetoed reparations and he didn't tell us about it. Well, I got this from AP. So he did tell people about it. He may not have called Josephine, he may not have called me. But I didn't need a phone call because I heard him when he said it the first time. And I said, well, that's what Wes says. Because I know this stuff is existing and I know he's addressing those disparities in a way that no other governor has ever done before. So I just had to put that.
I'm glad you did. I've actually read that. I've actually read that report.
The study, that's what he vetoed, the study.
Yeah, no, I understood exactly what he
Like
said.
when do we take action?
Here,
Why
so-
we keep studying?
I will say this. I will say this about
Even
that.
I love you, I just had to.
You know, I'm glad you said no, because I've read that. I've actually read that report. I know what you're talking about. I talked to the reparations committee in Maryland. I've gone through this process. But what
This official was leading that.
Yeah.
Okay, she called up me and everybody else, and all the leaders to the county council to discuss it. And even when I heard it's only gonna go to certain Marylanders who were affected
Yeah.
by slavery. How do you determine who was affected by slavery?
So I will, the Westmore issue, and I think that answer he gave was, if it's just a study, then it's an easy thing to sign, right? So for him not signing it, it's.
But that's gonna cost money.
No,
The study's gonna cost money. If we're gonna do reparation, let's stop studying. Let's move on.
So the answer was, you'd rather him do nothing than the study?
No, I'd rather have him to go, Nika Fisher headed this up, 'cause I know about all that bill, okay? And even when she said it to us, she said, well, this bill will only affect the people who was affected by slavery. Well, how will you know who was affected? How will you have concise figures on who was affected?
Well,
So
that's not the same.
this study's gonna take more money.
I actually do want to have this conversation with you guys, but I don't want to.
Right.
This is about
We don't
being.
want to prolong you.
Yes, no.
But you know.
No, we'll get to the bottom of this before. We're gonna get to the bottom of this.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with or disagree with, that's all, research studies. Every election cycle, we have the same problem in America. They come with the same issue over and over again. Black men been locked up, underpayment for
Inequality.
for women, homelessness, affordability, all those the same issue, but they study that year after year. For me personally, being a researcher, someone who studied these type of issues, if we have to study and justify reparations, continue to put that in front of these people's face and in front of the Republican faith, like they did this heritage study, the plan for America and all that. This just didn't happen overnight. They came after study after study after study after study. We cannot continue to allow our elected officials to justify these bad decisions that's impacting our community and our kids' future by these irreparable. Well, a matter of opinion. It's just my personal opinion. I think it was a bad decision, but I don't vote in Maryland. But you don't have to justify or identify, regardless. They gave it to the Chinese and Japanese and all that. They didn't need to step out, so we always need to step. So I don't care how many steps we need. Pay me my money. I don't need
Solution.
Go ahead.
I think that if we could, cause that's great, points of view. What is the solution? Right. And I think that first off, as a people, we need to put value and evaluate our vote power. If you don't vote, or if you give away your vote for free, there's no reason why. I was debating a candidate from my district that couldn't denounce the war in Gaza, the genocide, because of the Jewish dollars behind it. You sign this, you got to do X, Y, Z. What are you demanding to some of these individuals? So if reparations or whatever the case may be, this is something from the community that has to be on. But if you give your vote for free, or if you give your power for free, or don't have a voice at all, but you have a tagline on Facebook or social media, but you're not into the process, that is a problem. It hasn't been a Democrat that has put forth the tax bill, in 40 years?
Almost 40 years, yeah.
But we steady talking about taxes. But the Democrats, it's not into it. My district right now in Texas is being ripped apart. National news. Greg Abbott, the Republicans, this and that. But if I dare say respectfully, the Democrats had the opportunity under Obama during Eric Holder to ratify and make sure that any redistricting goes through Congress first. The Democrats did not do it. So we have to hold ourselves accountable in some lines and what we're talking about. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you fine. I think everything that you said was very appropriate, and what the brother said was the Republican Party. You can't hold the Republican Party accountable when we didn't hold the Democratic Party accountable. And we are constantly being taken for granted.
Yes.
So, I mean, they look at us like food. What they are doing now, the president cannot do that by itself without complicity from Congress. So Congress already demonstrated to you how ineffective the president can be as they turned down everything Barack Obama did or said, regardless of if it had an impact. If he went right, they went left. However, Trump ain't got to worry about that. He put an executive order out. Obama could have put an executive order out. Again, when we got the ball, we don't do what we need to do, and it gets back to the people. So the people suffer. We may not have power, but we do have purpose. Yeah. And with that, we have to come together, because the playbook we've been using obviously clearly has not worked. I don't care what party it is and what people it is. And so we talk about legacy, leadership, and love. Our legacy is to be to the forefront. Our legacy, SCLC, SNCC, NAACP, everybody is fighting for chicken change, and therefore we don't have the ability to move forward with an agenda. We have to come together as a people. We have to hold people accountable for our vote. All this redistricting, everything that's happened has been a movement out of fear. And the fear is, how do we keep the power? Again, we have the power amongst ourselves to be the largest fourth nation in the world, but our spending power. We don't have to beg. The government is not coming. However, you get a couple of folks look like us with a new steeple and a Cadillac, they sell out our interests. So we got to hold our own folks accountable and have a strategy, because they clearly playing offense with the Heritage Foundation and all these other organizations. They're planning 20, 25 years out. We have to get a strategy.
Wait, are we discussing? I haven't said it.
So because
I hear opinions.
So
I'm a young person, I don't know what to do.
here you go. So here's the deal, and this is part of this. One of the reasons that people say we talk about the problems a lot. The reason why we talk about the problems so much, because most people don't know the problems exist. Most people don't know that. Like, if I say, what's the percentage of government contracts given to black people in Georgia? You're from Georgia. What's the percentage?
I'm from Arkansas.
What's the percentage in Arkansas of black contracts?
Contractors?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like in New Jersey, they didn't know either until we figured out it was 0.14%, right? So it's hard for people to address issues. They don't know how bad the problems are. Like, what's the median literacy rate for LMI, lower middle income person in America? What's the average reading level?
Are you asking me how many people vote?
No, reading. Like, I'm asking you, like, we're talking about education. What is the standard reading level of a person who graduates from high school, lower moderate income?
Eighth grade.
Huh?
You tell me.
Third, fifth, yeah. But I'm saying, but that's why.
Whether they can read or not, they can vote, though. We're talking about.
But how can
I
you?
love what you're saying.
Yeah.
But because obviously I'm 25 years old, right? Honestly. But if I'm a 25-year-old who's about to turn 50 in September. Okay, I'm just saying. And I hear all of you, and I'm like, wow, they're smart. He's smart. And I just leave here, I don't know what to do. Because we are not registered to vote, and we're scared to vote. If we're 25, we're scared to vote. We're not going to vote. Black power. We need to know that. Who to vote for? How to vote.
We're not going to finish election, but we're not going to finish that today, right? I mean, we're not going to. There's no way we're going to solve this whole thing today. The thing that you get left with, you got the document, you got the QR code. You come to SCLC. You need to get engaged. This is the conservatives have been working on this project that they're on now since 1971. The Powell memo. Justice Powell from the Supreme Court wrote a memo called Defense of American Free Market. In that memo, he talked about all this. That's where Heritage got started. That's where the CPAC got started. So we're not going to solve. I mean, you're asking for a plan. That plan is going to.
No, I'm not.
Our grandchildren.
Yeah, I agree. This is a long-term deal. So what we're trying to do is get people up off the bench. Brad, go ahead.
So one of the things that Kevin and I talked about before, I agreed to be on this panel was that part of the message is this shit is hard. It is literally impossible to do what we're trying to do. But if we don't do it, nobody else will. And so you kind of have to take the impossibility off the table and just focus on the possible. And the possible is still relatively impossible. And I got a new appreciation for this last week. So I work on a multi-faith, multicultural coalition that is working to end mass incarceration. Senator Warnock leads this organization with the Catholic Church and the Jewish Church and other organizations. And Senator Warnock came up with some legislation to address mass incarceration about 6 months ago. They've only got 12 senators signed on to this legislation. Senator Warnock hasn't gotten Senator Ossoff's signature on this legislation yet. This is a U.S. senator with his own agenda who can't get the traction that he needs to move his own legislation. So I look at what I'm trying to do, and I realize that I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, and he's having the challenges. His people are reaching out to me, asking me to write Ossoff on behalf of his legislation. This shit is hard. But we gotta do it.
It gotta be done.
And we have to work together to do it. I mean, I need Josephine. I need Cobb County. I need Fulton County. I've got minority contractors in the state of Washington that are writing letters to their senators for me. I've got minority contractors in California doing the same thing. I need these black organizations to stand up for themselves because we don't advocate for ourselves well. We just don't. We weren't raised to stand up for ourselves. We were raised to sit down, put our heads down, and be quiet. And so we have to be radical about this stuff. We have to be very intentional about this stuff. We have to be very political about this stuff. Not this political, but the political of working together, coalition together, and advancing policy that supports our initiatives. We can't expect them to hear us if we don't speak.
I guess just.
So this is the SCLC, historically speaking, right? We know where that comes from. It starts somewhere. And just using an example, we all came here, the common denominator is Mr. Kimble, right? We don't really know who all else is in this room. And there's a lot of powerful individuals that I met last night, and so I kind of, to be radical, push back to say, for instance, this big, beautiful bill that just passed by one vote in the House. My district and District 18 haven't had a representative going for a year. That one vote, we didn't get a chance to vote on. And yet, the district is the third most negatively impacted in the entire country. Wow. It's amazing. One vote, right? So with the closest of the House, and even if it flips, it's supposed to be still close to the younger generation, say, what can we do? I can't help but think that when you got Miss Josephine and some of these other individuals in from around the country, St. Louis in the back, so on and so forth, that if we had a black agenda that could create today, and a think tank like FSIC that can do the research on it, because you are a think tank that can give us information and come up with some type of preliminary think tank, and we disperse. And if you make one or two of representatives in your state adhere to that, in March in the primary, we might could change 4 or 5. It could start somewhere. So I can't sit here and accept the fact that, yes, it's hard as hell. But how long will we talk about how hard it is?
Well, the reason why you talk about how hard it is, so people don't get discouraged.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to say, like, if we start today, it's not gonna be done by Friday, right? So people go, it's Friday. I'm tired of this.
It's hard.
And register to vote by Friday.
First, I would like to say 2 things. One thing, you talk about voting, you talk about the young people, right? What we do now, we got an election coming up next year. And what we need to do, I was talking to Glenn Ivey, one of our congressmen, They've mobilized Democrats to travel all over the United States. That's my understanding. Because what we are trying to do at this point, we know that if we can get the House and the Senate back, then we can override a lot of things that the president is doing. Remember, the president, everything he does has to be approved by the House and the Senate. So you wanna know what you can do? You're a young person, talk to some other young people. Tell them, you need to go out there. We out in the parking lots. We out at the grocery stores, okay, with shirts on, soles to the pole. We're talking to the young people, why it's important for them to go out there and vote. That's what everybody has to do. We can't do it alone.
So I'm gonna.
Then the second thing about the contracts, right? I go to meetings. Our state senator, Senator Joanne Benson, she has a meeting every fourth Monday. She invites all the people there. We're doing a lot of infrastructure in Prince George's County. So you know what? I go to the meeting and I raise some hell with the contractor and the developer. And I told him, I said, look, okay, you're talking about doing all of this in our county. I want to know how much of that contract are you going to give to us African Americans? We don't want a slither. We want a big slice of that pie.
Well, why do you have a white contractor anyway? Your PG County is like 6% black.
But you got to understand something. As you were saying, Brad, a lot of our minority business contractors, they're small. So we can give it to them and they can sub it out to someone else, but they still get the big pot, okay? What we gotta learn how to do, we gotta go to these meetings and demand, and that's what I did. I put the man on record. You're gonna give us a big portion of this contract, right? Because you're doing it here in our community. So we want to see us represented. And I said, I don't mean people of color, I mean African Americans. That's what I mean. So, yeah, but see, they get away with it because they said, well, we did put people of color into these, on these contracts. So you got to specify.
Yes.
So I don't.
Black people.
So I want to, Josephine, I want to say something about, and I'm gonna just a focus group question. All of y'all live in, probably have a Democratic member of Congress as a member of Congress, and how many of you could tell the difference, or versus having a Democratic congressman versus a Republican congressman?
Oh, I'm in Arkansas, so.
You don't have that's just my point. I mean, the problem for the Democrats is that they have not impacted people's lives to where people feel that it makes a difference. And I think you talk to Glenn, they can travel. They've got to do a better job. Like you asked them to sign, like everyone here asked them to sign that bill, that tax bill.
Right.
They didn't do it, right? At a certain point, it doesn't matter if it's the Republicans are in there or not. I mean, we've got to, and that is a problem that everyone here is talking about. And I don't want to come down necessarily on Glenn or anybody else, but overall, a room full of black people at the SCLC convention can't feel the difference between Democrats and Republicans in their legislators, and that is. But again, that's on us. That comes to us.
For my taxes.
Yeah.
Taxes.
And
So you mean it's better for you?
You say I can't tell the difference. Taxes.
Yeah.
between the Democrats and the Republicans, we felt the difference. It was like flipping the table.
Yeah, go ahead.
The difference is very clear. Okay. The Republicans act more on the platform of strategy from a business,
Right.
right? So they build structure. They put in the work and the dollars toward that. And a lot of stuff is textbook. You read books like Art of War and different books that are out there. They are very, very strategic in what they're doing. And I can kind of deal with things when I know this is what you're going to do, right? That way I can adjust my life, my business, and how I move based because I know what you're going to do. Like I say, I'd rather notice you're racist than be playing right. I can deal with it, right? But when it comes to us as Democrats, don't know the plan, don't know what do we want to accomplish.
That comes back to
I
us.
think you're actually giving more credit than is due.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that most of those policies
Were written outside.
that benefit regular folk were actually,
By Democrats.
yeah, they don't go into effect until later. And then also the policies that are put in place by Republican strategists. It's like, even during the Bush era, where people got, what was it, like $300, they went and bought a new entertainment center. People at the higher end were getting checks for $48,000.
So here's.
So they're not working that, I don't,
But
they
that's
can
what
help
business do. They
veterans,
take the
whatever.
ideas and they make them
But the
work.
reality is, it's not helping us, that's just their talking.
I get it.
Yeah, no.
And that's why I think they're winning at. It's the messaging.
Yeah.
If I dare say, and please don't. To me, Donald Trump is a great leader. Let me say what I mean. Because in his party and sector, if he says alternative facts, the whole apparatus says alternative facts from the news media. If he says fake news, everybody's saying fake news. My colleagues, Ron Reynolds and Jelanda Jones, they was all over the world getting their IG numbers up, but nobody had the same message. Everybody's for individual. We did not have a plan or a messaging to educate. So we had to go out to the elders and to our communities because they're like, we hear the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment you guys testify, but what does that mean?
But do we want to be in this 1984 double speak?
We have no choice.
Space?
Yeah, but we have no choice, right? I mean, if that's the way the game's being played and we're losing, what do we do? I mean,
Well, I think it actually pushes more people, especially younger people, away from the system and for them to be disengaged. If I'm turning to 4 different channels and everybody's using the exact same words, the exact same words, I'm thinking this is, pardon me, some BS, right? I do remember where I was. This is BS, and I'm gonna tune out, right? Because I don't really feel like they're being genuine.
But where are you tuning into on social media, most likely, where everybody get their news from? So the median has changed. The attention span of the people has spent. They want their information in 30 seconds or less. You can't explain. So those buzzwords is what's hit. Next thing you know, we just passed vouchers in the state of Texas. 92% of the people don't know why they're against them. Just because they were told, we hate vouchers.
Even though the vouchers are feeding them, and the strategy has to change, so it really needs to be intergenerational. So the young folks, where they're plugged in at, how they're plugged in, however, we need to be able to share what didn't work. What did we fail at? So, because they have a different total mindset about this thing, and they are the future. So we can't be like they crazy. We have to be able.
Oh no, I'm not saying that's.
No, but I'm just saying we have to be able to connect. And to his point, it's futuristic. What we got, by the time we see the change in the next 20 years, most of us are not going to be here. So we need to be able to equip them for the transformation.
Educate on their level.
Meet them where they're at.
On their level, not on our level.
All right.
Brad, so go ahead, Brad.
So I don't believe Republicans are interested in business.
Yeah.
No.
Republicans are interested in power. Power. Minorities don't have the kind of businesses that they have, so them putting money into their businesses is just more power. We Democrats tend to talk about helping people. Republicans help themselves.
But in the political sphere, and we talk about emphasis to what he said, there's 2 pots of money in Washington. You got people money and power money. They're messing with the people money. They're not messing with the power money. They're not messing with the Department of Energy, Highway and Transportation. So we got to focus on where the jobs at, where the money is. All that money is coming back down to the states. So we have to figure out where we're located, how we have a strategic implementation of the plan so that we benefit. To Kevin's point, he's always talking about all the billionaires became billionaires because of the government and those contracts. So those contracts are significant. And you talk about we getting this or we getting that. That's all an illusion because we ain't getting nothing if we getting less than 1%. And it should be reflective of the percentage that you make up at the very least in that particular district. And it needs to be intentional when it comes to black folks. Like you all said, when I did that exercise yesterday, and I talked about the 1,260 black communities that have been broken up by the Federal Highway and Transportation Department, no other minority or people can assess that the direct impact. So that same level of intentionality that impacted us is the same level of intentionality that we need strategically to move forward.
So
I don't think that money's coming back to the states.
Yeah, no, most of it's gonna come in block grants. Most of it come back as block
That money's
grants.
California. That money's not coming back to the states.
Yeah, the money.
And the CAO office already said that money.
Well, no, it depends on what kind of money. But if you talk about energy money, all the construction, that money's all coming back in. Education, like all the education money is coming back in block grant form. That's which something we have to work on. But before I'm gonna ask her one thing. So, what I would say to you, like everybody in this room, the number one thing y'all need to do is, when you leave here, is call your congressperson. I mean, even as a Republican, I don't care. Call them
I have
in.
a relationship with them.
Call. Everyone should call her and tell them. I don't care what you ask them to do. Just ask them to do something. Like, you got to get them used to hearing from you, right? You can take one of these letters that's in that package and say, why can't you sign on this bill? Why can't you sign on the HR 2917, the tax act? I don't care what you just ask for something.
You get to reply back.
Huh?
Why? Tell me why I'm doing that.
Because they need to hear from you. They need to touch you. They need to.
You need to touch them.
Tell me.
You need to touch
I
them.
don't know. Was there a reply required behind that?
If they don't, write them again. If they don't reply, then write them
I think
again.
they reply faster if you made a
I accept
contribution.
what you're saying, and I'll build on that great point to say build a relationship
No, they won't.
with them. So I helped them get elected.
No, they
I
won't.
worked on the campaigns, okay? I helped them get elected, so when I call or text, they know who I am.
But Brad Anderson knows his. Brad Anderson knows his
I got a
senator.
question. Brad mentioned, you gotta mention something. He said the money is back, right? Money matters. Money is popping, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, you, Brad, what can I do? I want to become a contractor, start a business. I can start business in 10 minutes in Houston without a problem, right? To be a contractor, right? How do I get that money coming in Texas?
You don't.
What you got going on? Same with you, Dad. Tell me what I do to get that money, to create that power. What can I do? People like myself who are businessmen do change that concept where, okay, bet, I'll create more businesses in that space where you say where the money is. Now get that money instead. That's strategy. Right?
So, but at the same time, I think it's incumbent of us to put the pressure on our elected officials because they tend not to call you back because the first thing they want to do is, well, was he on my contribution list? What did he contribute? And so those conversations we cannot be self-serving. So I don't know what that looks like for when we're in this particular model, but at the very least, we need to have a strategy and we can use minimal contributions. $1 here, whatever we spend it, don't supersize.
I gotta say something, man. I'm a pretty intelligent individual. I'm overwhelmed. Right now, I'm overwhelmed. Really, this is too much going on. You asking too much of me.
And you only know a third of it.
Let me finish. My point is, I'm trying to digest it, and I'm getting nowhere. I'm not getting any answers.
So let me-
I don't want to hear them.
So-
Reason I'm an example. I don't want to hear them.
Right. And that's the average, and that's the average, I think that's the average person, but to be fair to your point, and I think this is responsibility for our elected officials. At some point, there's a ceiling on politics, and then there's leadership and education. It starts with a baseline fundamental of education resource, not to persuade you to vote this and that, but basically you as a constituent saying, hey, I'm hearing Brad, I'm hearing this. How do I get acclimated? How do I get plugged in? We had the economic summit where Kevin and them came down, we brought them to the hood in Houston. That is them. Everybody came with the resources to tell. People walked away so informative. Every elected official should do that, not just for voting, right? How do people get educated about these things? And like what Ms. Josephine said, in your area, in your neighborhood or communities, how many of those resources, educational summits is happening? It's one thing to come tell us after the fact we're reacting, but what are you educating us proactive? And I think as Black Americans, we're being told what to think, what to vote, and we're reactive, but nothing is given.
Most people don't know
That's what we're
that,
losing
like
at.
I said, what's the
Our
percentage
education
of government
of
contracts
basic
given to black people
fundamentals are
you're from
off.
Georgia? What's
And so, like you're saying, you're overwhelmed because you don't know what the hell
what's
to
the percentage
believe.
in Arkansas of black
Am I trying to convince you? He says it's a matrix.
Yeah.
No, we have to have platforms.
Like in New Jersey, they didn't know either until we figured out it was 0.14%.
Unbiased information.
So it's hard for people to address issues. They don't know how bad the problem is.
You have to be willing to come.
Literacy rate for LMI, lower middle income person in America. What's the average reading level?
Everyone I know in Texas LLC. I had
No,
six,
no,
seven.
reading. Like for reading, like talking about education. What is the the standard
Tell
reading
me
level
what
of a
I
person who graduates from high school,
to help
lower
get
moderate
this
income.
money from the federal government on you guys'
Third,
side.
so
And
third
I
for
can-
third for
and
yeah. But okay,
give
but
me
that's
the
why.
information first. That matters to me more than anything else.
But how can so? I'm gonna use Thaddeus as an example. So Thaddeus is an example for this. So I apologize that if it's not. But this is important. Thaddeus created an apprenticeship program that the department. So he's like 12 steps ahead of from where you are. He's way ahead. He created a program. Department of Labor gave him I was at the signing. At the Department of Labor signing. They told him to apply for a grant. Say, hey, there's $8 million grant. We want you to get it. So that's what that's when I said that. I don't think that's right. I don't. His congressman told him he could get it. Everybody told him to get it. He didn't get it. He hadn't been in business long enough. Sometimes. So we're not going to finish. We're not going to finish that today, right? I mean, we're not going to. You guys, there's no way we're going to solve this. You got to get on a long. The thing that you get. The first thing is like you're overwhelmed. You got the QR code. Everyone here knows that they hate calling me. Like anytime they call me, they got to listen to me complain. I say I'm no longer fun. The conservatives have been working on this project. I'm no longer now since 1969, 1971. All I know every day because just half stuff I talk about wrote a memo called Defense of America. You don't know like in that memo. As bad as I'm saying, that's where Harris got started. That's where the CPAC got started. It's really you have no idea. We're not going to solve. You're asking for a plan. That plan is going to like the Palestinians. I mean, this is a we're one bad day term deal. So what we're trying to do is get people. You have there's a concept they've got going on called freedom cities. This is basically the government wants to create this thing where billionaires can buy their own city, tax-free zones, where they can build their own nuclear power plants, create their own currencies. Stuff. I mean, they are. You talk about they're giving all expenses. They're building a country where they only need 100 million people. There's 380 million of us now. They're on their way to only needing, like someone talked about robotic dogs for police. I mean, they are working on a plan that they don't need us at all. So you're talking about you're overwhelmed. You have no you have no idea.
In DC right now is the test market for martial law in DC right now.
So one of the things that Keith said, we didn't get our funding. However, I don't believe we can depend on the government. It's up to us. We spend enough money to be the fourth largest nation in the world. So we have to cooperatively work together in order for our survival. We have never gotten our fair distribution based on our contribution. So it's up to us. So we've started pivoting into trying to get private funding. So it's going to take a combination of private-public partnerships. Now, I'm not saying we're not entitled to that government money because we pay taxes. And we also have contributed significantly to the success of this country. We are owed that. So if you don't want to give it to us in reparations, give it to us in contracts. We used to build a brick without a straw. But damn, at least give us the straw.
So, I'm listening to all of this, and I'm hearing my brother speak right here, and I feel you. And I was feeling that 25, 30 years ago. And I said, fuck these jokers, it only cost me $25 to run for office, I'm like, right?
On behalf of his legislation?
My generation, I'm 62, right?
But we got it,
Born in the year, the doctor.
and we have to work together to do it. I mean,
But as I moved and matriculated through my life,
I need.
the ball was dropped.
I need Fulton
When I say the ball was dropped, people like me, who are the beneficiaries of the affirmative action, thought life was so freaking good for us, excuse my colloquialisms, but life's so good for us, we don't have to worry about what happened in the past. Well, let me just tell you something.
We don't advocate for ourselves. We just don't.
We're talking about lynchings, and we talk about, this stuff is still going on. When I talked about the Ku Klux Klan going door to door in parts of Maryland, it's still going
We have
on.
to be very intentional about this stuff. We have to be very political about this stuff. Not
That
this.
we have got to get together and stop
but the political
pulling each other
of
down
working
as a
together,
people
coalition
and
together,
picking
and
people
advancing
apart
policy that
because
supports-
they're not 100% good
You can't
guys.
expect them to hear
Right?
us.
This brother was talking to me, it's just later, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Rob, you
He was talking to me last night. I don't got a lot of money, I'm a classroom teacher.
the SCLC.
What did I tell you?
You gonna send me $25?
I will send you $25. if I find out decision 25, I got it, I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? So we, as a people, have to raise the acumen of people around us, my peers, that I'm pulling into and saying, look, we got to talk about these issues. We got to talk about education, because when you get to Congress, I want you to put in an amendment so that education is a right in there in the state, in the United States of America, not just a dream. Like we have in Maryland, it's a constitution, the Maryland Constitution says every child should get
I
it.
can help with that.
We got the blueprint for Maryland's future. Now we gotta fight to get it funded. But the point is raising the acumen politically. Run
That we
for
had a
it.
black agenda.
Find somebody, give them one for us. Because you think they're not answering your phone, when you call, guess what? I call anybody, and they gonna call me back. You know why?
Because you're the president of teachers.
No, because if they don't call me back, I'll be the first one out of the word that's filing against them, making them put that money in that they're getting from these donors to keep that seat.
Well, let me ask you a question. If that Maryland thing's so good, how come the Maryland delegation hasn't offered the amendment?
I mean, you do have to say, like, if we start today.
You said, like, he gets to Congress, you have the Maryland congressional delegation, why don't they offer the amendment in Congress?
I'm a teacher, I'm a classroom teacher, and I got a vice president.
Hold on, I got three heads.
But Teresa, I think that you are 100% correct that we drank the colonial Kool-Aid and dropped the ball. So it's our responsibility to connect with the 25-year-old that's about to be 50, and with the real 25-year-olds that's about to be 26. We have a responsibility. We have been here. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. We got the BMW, we got the 401k. Exactly, and we didn't. We fell for the okie doke.
What is Color of Change doing that we're not doing as SCLC to have the membership that they have? What is Black Lives Matter doing that we're not doing to have these young people involved?
They changed the messaging and were effective in communicating the need, because this movement that we have started, the players at the table turned into the gatekeepers. And what happened was, according to
So I'm gonna.
what was the black man here that made everybody?
Maynard Jackson.
Maynard. He said they suffered from scared Negro syndrome because he made sure that they were able to get in and get the contract. Then they became the gatekeepers and started pulling up the ladder, neglecting the opportunity for the folks coming behind them. I started an organization. I was a member of two other organizations that were supposed to be representing us. And they said, why would you start a competing organization? No, first and foremost, they said, I couldn't speak for them. If there's one thing God blessed me with, was being able to talk. Now, ain't nobody speaking for us, and y'all not speaking for us, but then they accused me of starting a competing organization.
Well, why do you have a white contractor anyway? Your PG County is like 6 black.
Well, I said, in order to be in competition, y'all have to do something. I was out of order, I shouldn't have said that. However, my point was, they were having parties, patting each other on the back, and meanwhile, the conditions of the community are deteriorating, and nobody is advocating for us. So at the very least, we can speak to the injustice, we can speak to the disparity, and try to just more than speak, come up with a plan. So when I came up with the only appraisal apprenticeship program in the country, certified through the Department of Labor, do you think they supported me? They were upset because they didn't come up with it. When I offered it to them, before I ever started, I offered it to them. And everybody thinks somebody else is taking care of the problem. We all we got. If we ain't addressing, if we ain't the change we want to see. So
I want to, Joseph, I want to say something about, and I'm going to, this is a focus group question. All of y'all live in, probably have a Democratic member of Congress, is a member of Congress, and how many of you could tell the difference versus having the Democratic congressman versus the Republican?
So one of the things that
You don't have one, yeah. That's just my point. I mean, the problem for the Democrats is that they have not impacted people's lives to where people feel that it makes a difference. And I think you talk to Glenn, they can travel. They've got to do a better job. Like you asked them to sign, like everyone here asked them to sign that bill, that tax bill. They didn't do it, right? At a certain point, it doesn't matter if it's the Republicans are in there or not. I mean, we've got to, and that is a problem that everyone here is talking about. And I don't know, don't want to come down necessarily on Glenn or anybody else, but overall, a room full of black people at the SCLC convention can't feel the difference between Democrats and Republicans in their legislators. And that is, but then that's on us.
So
That
you
comes
look
to
at
us.
Washington D.C. and the federal takeover.
Because taxes. So you mean it's better for you?
I get it, but we have a generation. So this is saying that you have to pass the torch before the flame go out. Right? So let's use the SCLC for instance, and I can speak, and I said it publicly, and I can speak to Houston, our NAACP, and this is not me bashing nobody, it's truth on fact, it's ineffective, it's corrupt and it's wrong, right? But when you have organizations as powerful like this one, like you said, what programs can this legendary organization do to focus on the youth? Where can this legendary organization or nationally fill in those gaps that it's missing? And it's educational and acclimating that younger vote. So to your point, you're right. But it's not even just young folks, it's older ones that has their lawyers and their doctors, and it's like, I'm good, I got 3 houses. Those issues ain't affecting me yet, but by the time it does, respectfully, your black behind gonna get locked up and chewed up and hosed down too, So it's a messaging of educating and getting involved in what is our common purpose.
And I think we're kind of saying the same thing.
Absolutely.
Right, absolutely, because look at all
Hold
the
on. Brad wants to speak. So I'm sorry. That comes back to us.
It's like, what am I fighting for? Y'all already know.
Yeah.
Y'all already know.
It's the
What am I fighting for?
Brad. We're written outside.
We gave those kids everything. We had to work hard. I worked in tobacco, cucumbers, you name it. These are
Internet kids.
Hold on. Brad was speaking.
They are lazy.
Brad heard him.
I got everything in life. Why I got to worry about
So here's-
some discrimination? Why I got to worry about my mom, she always took care of that.
Yeah, no.
So I'm relying on her. It's our job. We can rock
Yeah,
the ball. And it's time for us to get these little late-stage kids off their behind with their microwave attitude and put them out there to work hard like we do. And we give them a piece
Brad, look at Brad.
and vote.
Brad.
So,
Hold on, guys. Brad.
you asked me a question about becoming a minority contractor. So, I can't help you become a minority contractor, but if you were a minority contractor, I can help you get larger projects. That's my focus. My focus is on helping minority contractors
We have no choice.
build
Yeah,
infrastructure.
but we have no choice, right? I mean, if that's the way the game's being played,
So
and
next
we're
move is to
losing,
do what
what do we do?
Josephine did,
I mean,
and start having conversations with your elected officials and the developers that are developing in your community, and coming up with solutions like bonding, insurance.
I'm thinking this is part of me, right? I remember I
No. It's open floor.
right? Because I don't feel like you're being
The union, right?
We're
The
using it
unions
as
will
tools
allow
on
you
social media,
to
most likely
come to
they're
their
so the media has changed, the attention span of the people
If
has
you
been.
talk
They want
about
information in 30
being
seconds or
minority
less, you can't explain, so those buzzwords is what's hitting us,
What is gonna be
we just
your
passed
focus?
vouchers in state of
Do
Texas.
you have
92% of people don't know why they're against them.
Because
This is what they were told.
Go in there, vouchers. If you don't know what you.
Even though the vouchers are
then you
feeding them,
gonna
and the
flop.
strategy
So the
has to
first thing
change.
you gotta
So it
do
really
is
needs to
make
be
sure
intergenerational. So the young folks, where they're plugged in at, how they're plugged in. However, we need to be able to share what didn't work, what did we fail at. So, because they have a different total mindset about this thing, and they are the future. So we can't be like they crazy. We have to be able.
Oh, no, I'm not saying, yeah. that's-
No, but I'm just saying we have to be able to connect. And to his point, it's futuristic. What we got, by the time we see the change in the next 20 years, most of us are not going to be here. So we need to be able to equip them for the transformation.
Brad. Brad.
Then you want to back to our woman.
Brad has to say, Brad.
So we can work for the water. I don't believe. And it's like, I get those contracts. there's always a bid, when you go on their website,
Yeah.
you can bid on these, jobs. They have like a member, you can bid on the same thing. All of this stuff is just, you go to the county, the power company, and the state website, they got this announcement. But first, make sure you're ready before you do that, because if you're being turned down, guess what?
But
You don't have
in the political sphere,
Ms. Josephine,
we talk about
if I may,
this
this is a promise
There's two
jump,
pots
right?
of money on
Everything you just explained.
You got
and maybe
people
this is a
money
communication thing. And to
and
him,
power.
to his point, respectfully,
They're messing with
his
the people
organization is dealing with
They're not
mental
messing
health,
with the
especially
power
people
money.
in the prisons
They're not
and
messing
systems
with the
like that.
power
And right
money,
now,
energy,
in
power,
Texas, they're working to
transportation.
fund an
So
education
we gotta
program to go
focus
into
on
prisons
where
to
the
get these
jobs
guys
at,
set up
where
with
the money is.
501c3s
All that
and so
money is
forth
coming
to get
back
out to
down
get
to the
those
states.
trades and those
So
scholarships, this
we
and that.
have to
So
figure out where
my
we're
point is that when you
located,
find two
how we have a strategic
juggernauts like this, how do we
implementation of the
communicate
plan
to
so
get
that
through
we
that, to
benefit.
make that connection
Kevin's
happen?
point,
And with
he's
all
always
that's in
talking
this
about
room of what
all
you
the
have going
billionaires.
on, that
Yeah,
with her
became
expertise of
billionaires
his,
because of
to make it
government.
all work.
And those
that's the whole
contracts.
point of
So
synergy.
those
A lot of our
contracts
problems
are
that we keep
significant.
talking about,
When you talk
respectfully,
about,
we
and
can
we
answer if
getting
we
this
figure out
and
how
we
to
getting that.
be
That's all
synergized
illusion,
in our
because
circles.
ain't getting that.
We got
We
us.
getting less.
I think
one of the things that highlights with
Yeah.
the percentage that you make
But hold on,
up
no.
at the
These
very
ladies
least
were waiting
in that
patiently
particular
to talk. Let them
district.
give them
And it
things.
needs
So
to be
you and then you.
intentional
Okay,
when it
so,
comes to black folks, like you
one
all
thing,
said. When we talked,
we
when
had
I
a
did
very
that
short
exercise
period of
yesterday,
time
and I talked about the
people
1,260 black
kind
communities
of
that have been broken up by the Federal
relax
Highway and
or
Transportation
not be
Department.
as
No other
concerned,
minority
thinking
or
that,
people
doing
can
okay.
assess that
And
the direct
so-
impact. So that same
That
level
was
of
a short period of time,
intentionality
but
that
right
impacts
now,
us is the same level of
the fire is
intentionality
being lit,
that we need
The
strategically
flame is
to
being
move
turned
forward.
up.
So I'm
And so the purpose of that is.
Yeah, no, block, most of it's gonna come in block grants. Most of it'll come back as block grants.
That money's not coming back.
Yeah, the money.
The CAO, I've already said that.
Well, no, it depends on what kind of money. But if you talk about energy money, all the construction, that money's all coming back in education. Like all the education money is coming back in block grants. That's which something we have to work on. Before I'm gonna ask her one thing. So, what I would say to you, like everybody in this room, the number one thing y'all need to do when you leave here is call your congressman. Congressperson.
Gotta make lemonade if I
Even
lose
as a
the
Republican, call him in.
The last
Call,
thing is.
call. Everyone should call and tell them, I don't care what you ask them to do, just ask them to do something. Like, you gotta get them used to hearing from you, right? You can take one of these letters that's in that package and say, why can't you sign on this bill? Why can't you sign on the HR 2917, the tax act? I don't care what you, just ask for something. Yes. Huh? Because they need to hear from you. They need to touch you. They need to, you need to touch you. Yeah.
But I think if you get the message.
If they don't, write them again. If they don't reply, then write them again.
All these young folks, everybody want to be an influence. Well, let us influence. We just need to give them the agenda on what they should be trying to influence, and that bridges the gap on the communication.
But Brad Anderson knows his senator. Pants. Yeah.
Yes, I can't get home fast because my suit too tight.
No, slavery. Came from slavery.
It came from slavery.
slavery.
Look, Google search slavery and slavery. What happens if we would go back and tell our young people?
Well, you-
But at the same time, I think it's incumbent on us to put the pressure on our elected officials because they tend not to call you back. And the first thing they want to do is,
Being jailed,
see
they
on
out
my
here.
contribution
Look,
list.
Macho, right?
What can
But
you
really,
contribute?
it's
And
not
so
okay.
those
It's
conversations we cannot be self-serving. So I don't know what that looks like for when we're in this particular model, but at the very least, we need to have a strategy and we can use minimal
The best
contributions.
way you can
Dollar
take
here,
a man.
whatever we spending, don't supersize.
You take all the dignity when you do that. They would do that.
And you only know a third of it.
They would do that. And then-
I don't want to hear them.
And so they still want to do that. So So if you want to know why it's still down, because you still got, you have reverted back to slave mentality. So we haven't been enslaved since you did get young man. That's what you're telling
Well, I
us.
agree with you saying, but we did now separate. Now they don't care no more because now they think we call them slaves, so they're back in that day and they can. So
Well, all this, first of all, it's 60 years worth of this lady's next. There's 60 years worth of indoctrination that you're dealing with. So, I mean, the rappers, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going on.
Well, I guess I might be the unpopular voice in the room. One, we have to distinguish between what is fashion and what is, someone's mindset. The reality is that y'all said a lot like, people from like 1950 complain about that rock and roll music right now.
But I will tell you.
The fact is that we're not supposed to like what our kids
No, rap, but no, I've talked to a lot of parents about this. This is really serious. If you,
I agree, but the reality is we're focusing on the politics of respectability, what somebody looks like. And I'll be honest with you, it's like, I see white kids tattoos all over their body, it's not keeping them from getting high.
yeah. No, but I was gonna say about
We're so focused on, presentable and, and all this other stuff, which is being defined by people who are not us.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is that, the comments about like young people feel like they don't have anything to fight for, that's not true. There are tons of people that are out there that are doing the work, that are young and under the age of 25. But you know what? Everybody in your generation wasn't doing the work. Everybody in my generation wasn't doing the work. It's always been a small percentage.
Yes.
So to try to write off like a whole group of people, make those kind of generalizations puts us just in the
I
same
agree
bad
with you.
position.
When I say that, I say that because I know what my peers are doing. And I'm watching my peers pulling their kid out of public school and saying these schools are no longer good enough for their children, but yet they were able to go through the public school system, and by them taking their children and I can go into charter schools.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you asked the question about why the amendment happened.
Desegregating our schools.
Charter schools have got significant lobby dollars going.
But they know Glenn Ivy and they know all these people. I mean, that shouldn't stop. I mean, again, this comes back to the original point of this conversation. It doesn't matter. He's still elected official. I mean, and I know Josephine.
Yeah. But the thing is, the charter schools, the people that are sending their kids to charter schools.
Hold on. This one guy has a question. Then I'm gonna. It's almost 4:00. I don't want to keep you guys longer. We can keep talking. I don't want to keep you guys longer, but go ahead.
So 3 things real fast. Number one, can we come up with one initiative or one thing that we're gonna work on? I struggle.
Two things. Call every member of Congress and tell them to support OSIP. Call every member of Congress and tell them to vote support the HR 2927, the tax cut, American tax plan. 2 things.
And then we can't specifically point, what is it that you said?
Because you don't spend any money. You don't spend $25 million hiring economists and people like Brad, all this work out there, and Thaddeus. We don't spend money supporting advocacy, right? I mean, the Heritage Foundation had $25 million for one book. That means their overall budget is probably $250 million, right? So I don't know how many of you guys, I know you guys all paid to be here, but I don't know how many of you guys give $1,000 a month to SCLC. I mean, I don't know how much you give Todd, huh?
See, this is off topic, but it's on topic. The thing is, you gotta see the value. There are plenty of things I'm not saying the value of it. I had not heard of SCLC in 20 years until Rob mentioned it to me to come here and I talk with you.
Yeah, okay.
So what I'm saying is, if you show me the value that I understand, the progress, I can give you $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
There's
We're gonna
plenty
take
things I do. There's plenty of things I put the money there. That's not the issue. But my thing is like what the instruction you just gave me. I got to see the value in the result.
Well, again, so here, at some point you got to.
So what I'm getting at is, can we have a few people that begin to come up with a plan and an
You have
agenda
Rob.
to take off?
You have Rob. Rob could be your conduit. He's got all this stuff. I mean, you got to find somebody you trust. Rob has all this stuff. He knows exactly Before you respond
He's
to,
in Houston, right?
yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Even on your, you got so many organizations acronyms. The FISC.
Physics,
Yeah. On that website,
Yeah.
how often is it updated for like the current situations? Because I hear you keep throwing out numbers of house bills or whatever to look
Yeah.
at, like.
Most of that stuff's up there. Most of
Okay.
the stuff, yeah.
So,
It's on the website is
I know the
www.fsicoalition.org.
website, I'm just saying like.
So if you want to share to everybody else, yeah, but
Yeah.
but everybody, almost everybody here is connected to somebody here, so they'll be able to figure it out.
And